Hey, what up, guys? Doing another What's Next. This one's on Ricky Burns, former 3-division world champion. He's currently number 10 in the 135-pound lightweight division for me. And you're going to see what he's got going on next. Now, Burns last fought in October when he dropped a hard-fought 12-round majority decision to, his domestic rival Lee Selby, former featherweight champ. It was a good fight right there. They went toe-to-toe. Close fight, ended in Selby getting a majority decision. Nobody really had a problem with that. Most people felt Selby outworked Ricky Burns in that one. But Burns, he was considering retirement. Now he, just the other day, came out and said that he wants to resume his career. He's not thinking about retirement yet. So, looks like he's going to go back at it. Now, what division will he go back at it? He's fought at 130, 135, and 140. 130, I think, is out. He hasn't fought there for years. 140, Ricky Burns is not a big power puncher. Going up to 140, I think, would be a mistake. So, really, he's going to have to make do at 135, in my opinion. The big question is, he doesn't really have anything scheduled yet. So does he want to jump back in against a top 10 guy, or does he want to just take on a so-so fighter? That's a big question. What's next for Ricky Burns? Let's run through the top 10. We start with number 1, and that is the unified world champion Vasily Lomachenko. This fight's not happening. Lomachenko is going to fight Teofimo Lopez next in a unification bout later this year. And after that, even Ricky Burns is just not a guy that would be on Lomachenko's radar for a fight. He's an older fighter. He hasn't really done much. Lomachenko wants to fight name fighters or the very worst face mandatory. So this won't happen. Next is undefeated IBF lightweight champion Teofimo Lopez. Lopez is fighting Lomachenko next. He's not going to get a crack at Burns isn't going to get a crack at Lopez. Lopez says after that he's going to be moving up to 140. Now, here's a possibility. If Lopez wins or loses, he says he's moving up to 140. He's not talking about losing, obviously, but he has mentioned struggling to make weight, so maybe move up against a guy who's already fought at 140 and a veteran. I think that's possible, but probably not going to happen. I think Lopez would probably want to take on somebody a little younger, that'd be more, a bigger win for him. But you never know. Burns is solid enough, but they're not really promoted by the same people, so I don't see it. Next at number 3 is former 3-division world champion Jorge Linares. Now, Linares looks like he's facing Ryan Garcia next in July. After that, I think Linares is probably done because I think he's gonna get knocked out against Ryan Garcia personally, but. You never know. If that fight falls through and Linares just wants to stay busy, both these guys are pretty much promoted. They're shown on DAZN, both of them. Linares is with Golden Boy. Burns, I believe he's with Matchroom. So it's an easy fight to make. So I could see it happening against 2 veterans who are just trying to take the next step forward. So you never know. I'm going to lean towards a no, but I think it could happen. Next at number 4 is is former world title challenger Luke Campbell. Now, I could see this fight happening if Campbell, here's a scenario I think could happen. Campbell's supposed to fight for the vacant WBC belt next. If he does, I think he's going to win. I think he'll beat Javier Fortuna. But now it looks like there's a possibility that Devin Haney could move back in and fight for his world title because he's a champion at recess, which would ass out Luke Campbell. Now, prior to that fight, for the title, Campbell was planning on moving to 140 anyways. Why not move up to 140 against a stablemate? A guy they're both with Matchroom, and it's a domestic rivalry. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think both guys would go for it. That's the scenario. We're going to find out from the WBC if they're going to give Haney the title shot or not. So, could happen. You never know. I think it is possible. Next at number 5 is the undefeated WBA regular champion, Gervonta Davis. Now, I don't think this fight's going to happen next, but I wouldn't completely rule it out, and here's why. Davis is trying to establish himself as a lightweight. He struggled. He came in overweight. Even though he was moving up to lightweight, he came in overweight in his last one. Kind of struggled a little bit with the one-legged Yuriorkis Gamboa. So I think he'd rather establish himself if he doesn't get the Leo Santa Cruz fight, because that's supposed to be the fight that Davis is getting next, but it hasn't been 100% finalized. The coronavirus pandemic stopped it a little bit. I do think that fight is going to happen for Davis, but if it didn't, I think Ricky Burns is a good backup option. He doesn't have a lot of PBC fighters that he could fight at 135, so why not face a former world champion? I think it would make sense for Davis. So we'll see. I'm leaning towards a no, but you never know. Next at number 6, former lightweight champ, Richard Comey. He wants to get back into it. Comey coming off the loss to Lopez. Burns is coming off the loss to Selby. Why not fight in some kind of eliminator to move their way up? That makes sense. They are promoted by different people. Top Rank has Comey, and Burns is with Matchroom. But I do think it's a makeable fight. I do think it's a fight that could happen. And if they both want it, if Ricky Burns really wants to throw himself right back in the mix, Comey's a good guy to do that against. So, again, I'm going to lean towards the less likely, but I do think it could happen. Number 7, Javier Fortuna. Fortuna, one way or the other, is fighting for the WBC title next, either against Luke Campbell for the vacant belt, or they're going to reinstate Devin Haney as WBC champion, and he'll face Devin Haney. So I don't think Burns and Fortuna are going to be locking horns next. And even if Fortuna were to pull off the upset against Campbell or Haney, I don't think he's got Ricky Burns in his sight. So I don't see this fight happening. Number 8 is, Ivan Mendy, French contender. Now, here's an interesting fight. Mendy he's a guy who's trying to move up the ladder. He's the gold champion in the WBA right now, which doesn't mean anything. Basically means he's like a number 1 contender. Ricky Burns could fight him. Mendy's always looking for opponents, so why not face Ricky Burns? If Burns wants to jump back in, I think it's a fight he should stay away from, because Mendy is a tough guy, but if he really wants to get back in and move up and get into an eliminator, get into a title shot, I think Ivan Mendy's a good option, so that could happen. And then number 9 is a rematch with former featherweight champion Lee Selby. Not going to happen. Selby's fighting George Kambosos in an IBF final eliminator in his next fight. It got postponed due to the coronavirus. If Selby wins, he's going to move straight forward to being in line for a world title. So I don't see this fight going down. It could happen. It could happen if, like, Ricky Burns were to win a comeback bout, and then Selby were to decide to win like the vacant world title, because the winner of the showdown between Lopez and Lomachenko, doesn't the winner vacates the world title, which is very, very possible. So I could see Burns challenging Selby, that way Selby gets his first fight off the board, in a domestic rivalry. But I'm gonna lean towards the less likely that happens. But it could still happen, so we'll see. And that's pretty much it, guys, for Ricky Burns and what the possibilities are. Now, what do I think of Burns at his age? He's 36 years old. He's coming off a loss. He can still compete, but no power, and you want to carry power at an older age, and no power. I don't think he's going to do much, but Burns has a name. He could be looked at as a stepping stone guy, which gives him opportunity. So hopefully somebody does it. If I'm him, I'm probably going after a stay busy fight, then an eliminator, then possibly a title shot next year if he can win those. If not, and he wants to jump right back into it, go into an eliminator, and we'll just see what happens. But that's it, guys. That's it on the What's Next for former 3-division world champion Ricky Burns. Hope you enjoyed it. True Boxing, you've been hit with the truth.